good evening, or perhaps it is the middle of the night where you are, a time when the world is quiet and your mind drifts toward gentle slumber. Tonight, I invite you to join me on a long, unhurried journey back in time, to the winding, cobbled streets of medieval cities, to the flickering glow of candle-lit workshops and the quiet echoes of cathedral bells. Imagine yourself stepping softly over worn flagstones, the faint tang of wood smoke and damp earth in the air, the distant murmur of voices beyond shuttered windows. We will wander through the crowded markets and lonely alleys, linger by the hearths of humble homes, and gaze up at the imposing towers of stone fortresses. In this gentle exploration, we will see how medieval life unfolded, how people lived, loved, and struggled in a world so different from our own. There will be hardships and harsh truths, but also the subtle beauty of daily rituals and the quiet resilience of those who came before us. So let your breathing slow, let the world outside fade, and let us begin our journey into the distant past together. Imagine yourself waking up to a low, muffled clamor. The steady thump of cartwheels on stone, the distant bray of a donkey, and the sharp cries of vendors already calling out their wares. You are in a medieval city, perhaps in the 14th century, in a modest room above a tavern or beside a busy market square. You open your eyes to the faint glow of dawn slipping through oiled parchment windows. The smell of the city greets you immediately. A mixture of smoke and dampness, mingled with the sharper tang of open sewers that run like sluggish veins through the narrow alleys. The streets below are already alive with the rhythm of daily commerce. Bakers knead dough beside small hearths that glow a dull orange. Fishmongers arrange their morning catch on rough wooden boards, water dripping to the stones below. The noise is constant, a gentle murmur that rises and falls with the calls of street vendors and the shuffle of hurried footsteps. You dress quickly, pulling on rough woolen garments that scratch your skin. The walls of your room are thin, and you can hear the faint voices of your neighbors, a cough here, a snatch of a song there. The air is thick, close, and smells of sweat and the ever-present smoke of cooking fires. Stepping outside, your boots sink into the wet grime of the street. There is no clean pavement here, only a mixture of straw, refuse, and the waste of animals that wander freely. Rats scurry in the shadows, their small claws clicking softly on stone as they search for scraps. The market square is already teeming with life. Women with baskets of apples, men selling pots and pans, children weaving through the crowds with nimble feet. The air is filled with the tang of iron and the sweet scent of honey cakes, with the acrid smoke of blacksmiths' forges and the soothing aroma of rosemary sprigs bundled by herbalists. But beneath this bustling scene lies a constant danger, a quiet threat in every breath you take and every mouthful of water you drink. Wells draw water from underground, water that mingles with waste and rot. You lift a wooden cup to your lips, and though it tastes faintly of earth and iron, it is the only water you have. Food, too, is a daily concern. Bread that is often stale, grains ground by hand in small mills. Meat, if you can afford it, is salted or smoked to keep it from spoiling. Fish from nearby rivers. But those rivers are the same that carry waste from the city's heart. You eat what you can find, trusting more to luck than to knowledge. The rhythm of medieval life is harsh and unyielding. Each day is a balancing act, between nourishment and disease, between work and exhaustion. You walk carefully, not just to avoid the piles of refuse, but to avoid the pickpockets and cut purses who thrive in the crowded alleys. Even the city watchmen, with their long staves and brass badges, cannot see every corner of these winding streets. As the day wears on, the noise of the city grows louder. Bells ring out from the cathedral, marking the hours with a slow, steady rhythm. Merchants haggle over bolts of wool and barrels of salted fish. The clang of hammer on anvil echoes from the blacksmith's forge, each blow a punctuation in the constant music of the streets. The air is thick with voices, a tapestry of human sound. Prayers whispered in Latin, curses muttered in the coarse tongue of the tavern. And always, the stench of life without sanitation, waste and refuse that no one truly escapes. Disease lurks in these close quarters. Fleas leap from the fur of rats to the straw beds of the poor. Skin breaks open in the cold damp of winter, wounds that fester for want of clean water and soft linens. Yet life goes on, as it always has. The city's people adapt, endure, and find small joys amid the struggle. Imagine yourself at the end of the day. Your feet sore from uneven stones and your hands rough from work. You find a quiet corner in a smoky tavern, a cup of thin ale in your hands. The voices around you are low and murmuring now, a gentle background to the flicker of the hearth. The air smells of roasted onions and the comforting scent of warm bread. The city beyond is never silent. Even as you drift to sleep, there is the distant wail of a child in the night, the soft clip of hooves on stone as a late traveler makes his way home. The medieval city breathes around you, a living, sighing presence that endures through every hardship. You might wonder, could you truly last a day in this world? A world of constant motion, constant peril. And yet, for those who lived there, it was simply life. Its rhythms as natural as your own heartbeat. And now, let us leave these noisy, narrow streets for a time and turn our attention to a darker chapter that swept through these cities like a silent tide, the arrival of a plague that would change everything. The rhythm of medieval life, already a fragile balance of work and survival, was forever changed in the year 1347 when the Black Death arrived in Europe. Imagine yourself in the same bustling medieval city, but with a hush that seems to settle like a shroud over the crowded streets. The usual noise of market stalls and gossip is tempered by an undercurrent of fear, a sense that something unseen has taken root in the very air they breathe. The plague did not arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, carried by merchants' ships from distant ports, traveling in the holds of vessels, in the soft, dark fur of rats, and in the tiny biting fleas that nestled there. In the crowded docks, these small carriers of death found a city ripe for infection. At first, there were only rumors, whispers of sudden deaths in the south, of entire towns falling silent. But soon, the reality became impossible to ignore. Neighbors fell ill, their skin marked by strange swellings and fevers that raged for days. Death came swiftly and with little mercy. Imagine the stillness of a once crowded street. The doors of houses shuttered tight against the threat outside. Inside, families huddled in fear, their prayers rising in soft, uncertain Latin. Church bells rang more often now, not for the hours of the day, but for the passing of souls. The plague struck rich and poor alike. In grand houses, noble families lit sweet-smelling herbs to mask the scent of sickness. Yet even the finest draperies could not keep the illness at bay. In humble cottages, families watched helplessly as loved ones slipped away in the night, the rhythm of breath growing fainter with each hour. The impact was felt not just in bodies, but in the very spirit of these cities. Streets that once rang with laughter and the clang of iron now echoed with the quiet shuffle of carts carrying the dead. The air, already heavy with smoke and dampness, grew thicker with the scent of illness, sharp, metallic, and inescapable. Plague doctors became a familiar sight. Imagine them, moving slowly through the alleys in their strange, beaked masks, filled with herbs and sweet-smelling resins meant to ward off the foul air. Their long, dark robes brushed the filthy streets, and in gloved hands they carried staves to keep the sick at a distance. Some believed these doctors possessed rare knowledge, but in truth, their remedies were more ritual than cure. Vinegar-soaked cloths, potions of rosemary and sage, small comforts that did little against the silent enemy. And yet, their presence offered a fragile sense of order in a world that seemed to have lost all reason. In monasteries and cathedrals, monks and priests struggled to give comfort. Candles flickered in prayer-lit chapels, their glow soft and reassuring against the darkness outside. Many turned to faith with new fervor, seeking explanations in ancient texts and divine retribution. Imagine the eerie quiet of once busy streets, broken only by the slow toll of a funeral bell. Entire families lost in daze, their homes shuttered and empty. The living moved through these streets with eyes downcast, avoiding the gaze of neighbors who might carry the same fate. Survivors of the plague spoke of a profound emptiness that lingered long after the disease itself had passed. Fields went untilled, markets stood quiet, and the echoes of laughter and commerce faded like mist in the morning light. Yet even in the grip of the plague, there were small flickers of resilience. Some took to prayer, while others sang songs of defiance in the flickering light of taverns, soft, mournful ballads that carried a faint thread of hope. Life, as always, found a way to endure. In the aftermath, the cities would never be quite the same. Laborers who survived found new strength in their scarcity, demanding better wages. The old rhythms of feudal order were tested, reshaped by a simple truth. The plague did not distinguish between master and servant. Imagine yourself walking once more through these streets, now quiet with the weight of loss but also touched by a fragile sense of renewal. The walls of the city stand as they did before, but within them, the hearts of the people have been forever changed. And so, as the echoes of the plague begin to fade, let us turn our gaze to the remnants of this time, to the secrets that lie buried beneath our feet, waiting patiently for centuries to be uncovered. As the centuries turned, the plague years receded into memory, leaving behind not only stories and records, but also the silent, enduring traces of lives long past. These traces lay hidden beneath layers of earth and stone, waiting patiently for those who would one day uncover them. Imagine yourself standing in the hushed stillness of an archaeological dig, the faint scent of damp soil mingling with the cool air. The world of the medieval city lies just beneath the surface, preserved in the quiet layers of time. Here, the earth itself is a patient historian. Beneath the cobbles of busy market squares lie the remnants of workshops where potters shaped clay into humble jugs, and of hearths where women stirred thick stews in iron pots. The walls of medieval houses, once alive with the warmth of daily life, now stand as gentle reminders of how people lived and worked. Archaeologists move slowly and with careful precision, soft brushes uncovering the shapes of lost streets, the edges of cellars where grain was stored against the lean months of winter. In these layers of stone and soil, we find echoes of a city that breathed and dreamed centuries before. Imagine the discovery of a plague pit, an unmarked resting place for those who died in the Black Death's shadow. These pits tell a story of quiet desperation, of families forced to lay their loved ones to rest quickly, without the final rites they might have hoped for. But even here, there is a certain stillness, a peace that settles over centuries, softening the sorrow of those final days. In other places, the walls themselves tell stories. Carved graffiti, scratched by unknown hands, reveal the daily concerns of medieval lives. Prayers for protection, the faint outlines of ships, or the names of those long forgotten. These small inscriptions, humble as they may seem, are the voices of a past that still murmurs to those who care to listen. Hidden passageways and walled-up doorways hint at the secret lives of these medieval cities. Some were built to defend against invaders, winding through the shadows of the stone walls. Others to hide goods from the prying eyes of tax collectors, or to grant safe passage to those who dared to dream beyond their station. Imagine a narrow passage, the air cool and still, the scent of old stone rising as you pass. The rough walls brush against your shoulders, a reminder that these spaces were built for quiet movement, discreet and unseen. Each step you take echoes faintly in the darkness, a whisper of centuries gone by. The study of these hidden places is a patient art. Layer by layer, archaeologists read the story of each stone and broken tile, the wear on a stair tread, the soot-darkened hearths, the fragments of pottery painted with simple patterns. In these small clues, the rhythms of medieval life reveal themselves. Work and worship, love and loss, struggle and survival. Trade routes, too, left their silent marks. Imagine the faded outlines of roads that once connected these bustling cities to distant ports, the faint scent of spices lingering in storerooms, long empty. In the quiet of an ancient cellar, you might find the broken shards of amphorae from the Mediterranean, or the iron fittings of barrels that once carried beer and wine across rivers and oceans. These are the gentle ghosts of commerce and exchange, echoes of a world that reached beyond the city walls to the far corners of the known world. They speak of the constant movement of goods and ideas, of merchants who crossed mountain passes and storm-tossed seas. As you stand at the edge of this quiet excavation, imagine the weight of time, the centuries that have settled like soft dust over the daily lives of countless souls. The walls of the medieval city, once vibrant with the chatter of markets and the clang of smiths' hammers, now stand silent but not forgotten. And as we leave this world of buried secrets and worn stones, let us turn our eyes upward to the high walls of stone fortresses and the soft glow of candle-lit halls, to the lives of those who lived far from the grime of the city streets. Imagine yourself now, far from the crowded streets and hidden passageways of the medieval city. Beyond the city walls, high upon a hill or perched above a winding river, rises the imposing stone bulk of a castle. Here, life took on a different rhythm, a life of ritual, of power, and of fragile privilege. The air here is cooler, touched by the clean wind that sweeps across open hills. The walls of the castle stand thick and unyielding, the scent of stone and old wood lingering in every corridor. Morning light filters through narrow windows, catching the polished steel of weapons and the rich woven tapestries that soften the chill of these fortress halls. Imagine waking in the pale light of dawn, wrapped in blankets of wool and fur. The lord or lady rises slowly, attended by servants who move quietly, careful not to disturb the gentle peace of early morning. The day begins with the quiet murmur of prayer, the soft creak of oaken doors opening to the cold stone passageways beyond. The rhythm of the castle is measured, deliberate. In the great hall, fires are coaxed to life in vast hearths, the scent of smoke and sweet resin filling the air. Tables are laid with simple fare, coarse bread, fresh butter, and the soft tang of ale poured into wooden cups that have served generations. Here, in these thick-walled chambers, life is at once grand and spare. Lords and ladies dine on roasted meats and stewed grains, but even the richest feast is framed by the constant awareness of duty, of lands to be governed, of alliances to be forged, of quiet power that must be carefully maintained. Imagine the grand feasts that mark the turning of the seasons. Tables heavy with roasted boar and venison, the sweet aroma of spiced wine rising in the warm air. Minstrels pluck gentle tunes on lutes and harps, the soft notes weaving through the chatter of courtiers and the crackle of the fire. Yet even in these moments of splendor, there is an undercurrent of caution. Every smile at the high table is measured, every word weighed for its hidden meaning. In these halls, power is a dance as intricate as any woven tapestry, a constant negotiation of favor and loyalty. Beyond the great hall, the castle is a place of quiet industry. In the kitchens, the scent of baking bread mingles with the tang of herbs, sage, rosemary, thyme. Servants move with practiced efficiency, their days a careful balance of labor and devotion. In the stables, horses stamp and whicker softly, the scent of hay and warm leather filling the air. Imagine the clang of steel in the courtyard as knights train for tournaments and for the wars that shape their world. The rhythmic clash of swords and the low murmur of instruction form a steady heartbeat to life within these walls. Here, chivalry and violence are close companions, knights who serve their lords with both courtesy and steel. The lords and ladies of the castle hold court in chambers hung with heavy tapestries that soften the echo of stone. Candles flicker in iron sconces, their soft light a gentle glow against the deep shadows. Here, decisions are made that ripple out to the villages and fields below, taxes levied, disputes settled, alliances sealed with quiet nods and measured words. And always, there is the contrast between this life and the one that unfolds beyond the castle gates. Imagine the wooden hovels of peasants, the smoke-streaked air of the city's crowded lanes. The lord's life is set apart by thick walls and broad hearths. But even here, the weight of the outside world presses close. In the quiet of the night, the castle grows still, the hush of soft footfalls, the distant sound of an owl's cry beyond the ramparts. Servants slip through shadowed halls with candles that flicker like tiny stars. The rhythm of the day softens into dreams of another dawn. Imagine yourself here, within these ancient walls, as sleep begins to steal softly upon your thoughts. The flicker of candlelight, the weight of heavy doors, the faint scent of cold stone. In this quiet space, the past seems closer, and yet distant, like a dream half remembered. And so, with the final echoes of the castle's ancient life fading into the night, let us return to the present, leaving behind the rhythms of a world both harsh and wondrous, both fleeting and eternal. And so, our quiet journey through the medieval city comes to an end. From the crowded, bustling lanes to the silent, patient secrets buried beneath the earth, from the fragile resilience of plague years to the hushed splendor of castle halls. Imagine now, as you lie in the stillness of your own room, how the rhythms of those long-ago days echo softly in the quiet of the present. The faint clink of a blacksmith's hammer, the gentle flicker of a candle in a narrow window, the measured tread of footsteps on ancient stone. Each breath you take is a reminder of the simple, enduring constants of life, the steady beat of your heart, the soft hush of the night air, the gentle pull of sleep that draws you in. Let these images drift and dissolve, like the fading echoes of a medieval prayer whispered in a darkened chapel. The people of those cities are long gone, their laughter and laments carried away by time. Yet their lives linger in the worn stones, the weathered walls, the quiet artifacts that hold their memory like a lullaby. In the stillness of your thoughts, let them become a part of your own gentle dreams. Rest now, and let the past slip softly into the shadows, knowing that in the quiet folds of history, there is always a gentle rhythm waiting to lull you into sleep. Good night.